I love democracy.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Star Wars Politics. Today, we're going to be discussing some amazing, awesome leaks about the Ahsoka series. We're going to get into some Bad Batch Season 2 predictions. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Kathleen Kennedy at the end of the show. I do want to say a very Merry Christmas, or should I say Christmas Eve. And I hope you enjoy this episode. So, Wayne, we're going to get right into it here. Boy, oh boy, last week we had some
Juicy news.
juicy news, juicy to say the least, insane, crazy, spectacular news regarding the Ahsoka series. We discussed on the last episode the fact that we're going to be going to the New Beyond, but in addition to that, a report by Jason Ward at Making Star Wars suggests that we are going to be seeing Ahsoka Tano enter the world between worlds and go back to prior times in her life, I guess would be the best way to say that, and really get to experience kind of those pivotal moments in the Star Wars timeline as we know it. One of which potentially being going back to Mustafar, where she takes the place of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and possibly I don't know how it's going to turn out, but taking the place of Obi-Wan Kenobi and really seeing that side of Vader that she's probably never really seen before. So I think I'm kind of done talking. Let's just get right into the speculation here. What are your thoughts on the Ahsoka news from Making Star Wars?
Pretty crazy. Honestly, I was shocked by the news that we got. I was thinking we're gonna get some crazy stuff, crazy leaks about the show, but I wasn't thinking anything like this. We knew, of course, Hayden was gonna be back there, at least for rumored to.
Yeah.
So we knew that was pretty crazy. But yeah, going back into her life and doing basically rehashing her life of pivotal moments that led her down the path that she is, and taking it in a different angle, different spin on it, I think is really genius by Dave, because let's just be frank with it. We all thought we were wanting to see Anakin and Obi-Wan in Clone Wars armor for the Obi-Wan show, and we never got that. So to possibly have, I think there was leaks of like a young Ahsoka, young Anakin action in there. I think that's really great. I'm glad that we get to see that. It's going to put us right back in the emotional state of Revenge of the Sith, though, if we're rehashing Mustafar and Revenge of the Sith and that whole thing. It's going to be, I think, even worse than Revenge of the Sith in terms of emotional stability for us, because if you're replacing, there's a protection to it of like, you want to protect you would rather protect your sister than your brother, more or less, like protect her in that case. And like, it's going to be really hurtful to be like, you were my sister, Ahsoka. Why didn't we, rehash that? And it's like, you have that emotional stability.
Yeah, it's really going to hit me in the feels, I think, because like you're saying, that dialogue, the thing about Ahsoka and Anakin is their dialogue is so powerful in the Clone Wars,
especially in Rebels too.
Especially oh boy, Vader and Ahsoka, revenge is not the Jedi way. I am no Jedi. It's there's that line, but just like you said, the brother sister interaction in Clone Wars, and then there's some powerful dialogue in Revenge of the Sith.
Also her walking away from the temple, we may even see that again, bringing that emotional stability back of what if she didn't leave necessarily, but what if she stayed, and it's we can go from there.
Yeah. But there's the dialogue between Obi-Wan, you are my brother, Anakin. Take that every Star Wars fan knows that scene, just hits them in that
Anakin
way
of the high ground.
only Star Wars can, And then you magnify that with Ahsoka Tano and Anakin, and it's like that's going to be difficult. That is going to be difficult to handle. My question for you, though, like I want to preface this for everyone, is like I'm excited. Don't get me wrong. Like I am excited for what's about to come.
If it's all true, yeah.
If it's all true. But two things. Number one, do you think that is Dave biting off more than he can chew here? Like, is it too much? And number two, do you think they're going to pull it off? And what I mean by that is we all saw Kenobi, and I know we keep teasing a future episode where we talk about Kenobi. We'll talk about Kenobi at some point. But I think one of my biggest criticisms of Kenobi is that it felt like a fan film. It felt very small scale. And I'm worried that, we have all these like scenes that we keep talking about, right? Like, do you think that Ahsoka, even with all these cool spectacles and like things that we're hearing, what if it's done on that same kind of small scale like Kenobi? Do you think that it's going to matter? Do you think that will potentially hurt the show? And then, like I said, do you think Dave is kind of biting off more than he can chew? Like, is it going to be too much? Because we're talking World Between Worlds, we're talking the New Beyond, we're talking going back to Mustafar with Hayden, we're talking about all these things, and I'm like, is this going to be in one episode, or like, are we going to get this spread out over the whole series? Like, I don't know how you cram all this stuff in. I'm excited, but
I'm excited. Does he bite off more than he could chew? At this point, I mean, there's always a chance that it could. You got to give the guy a chance that it probably could fail. But at this point, I'm kind of done doubting. Not done doubting, but like I'm seriously doubting that it's actually going to fail, because after Tales of the Jedi, I'm like, okay, Dave, what can you give? What can you give fans more that we already haven't, freaking explored at this point in Star Wars? Between the books, between the games, between just fan theories of stuff, like what could be going on, like what could you give us more? And Dave delivers on that, giving us Dooku and Ahsoka both arcs, and it being done pretty well, and it not being like a down, not that there can't be down points, but like there can't be like the episodes are good and kind of like action packed or like information based. I'm done doubting at this point. I think he'll do well. The one thing that is great about Dave, though, is if this is the way that we're going, he has overhandled A World Between Worlds. He has overhandled Clone Wars. He has overhandled all these characters within Star Wars that we know and love. And whatever direction he takes, it maybe not our necessarily cup of tea, but I don't think he's going to throw it in the trash and say, well, that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I think he actually cares about the products that he puts out, because he doesn't just throw around Ahsoka or Vader or anyone. Like if he's like he said in the behind the scenes for Mando, he's like, there's an intentionality behind where I put my characters. Like that's why he didn't want to bring Ahsoka into season 1. He brought her in for season 2.
Right.
So I'm kind of done doubting at this point of his ability.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to have some hope for sure. I think, and I do, I think that he can pull it off. You're right. Tales of the Jedi was a major success. And then, I mean, that episode 5 of Mando season 2 with Ahsoka, and was just, yeah, that was amazing. And let's talk about the World Between Worlds a little bit, because I can remember you and I watching Rebels, okay, and not really, I would say for me is kind of a somewhere between a casual and a super fan, not really understanding the World Between Worlds and kind of how significant that place was. But looking at it now, and I remember like way back when we were watching this and kind of studying the World Between Worlds and what that could mean for Star Wars and like the sequel trilogy, I know that there were some videos that were released by some YouTube channels and some speculation that the World Between Worlds might be used to retcon the sequels. And that's when I kind of really started to get invested, like, okay, what's going on here? Let's talk about the World Between Worlds. And I guess let me back up a little bit. Do you think that, as far as the timeline goes, do you think Ahsoka is going to go to the World Between Worlds before um, she leaves with Sabine? Because we know that we're going to get the mural scene, the Rebels scene where she meets up with Sabine. Do you think she goes back to the World Between Worlds before she goes to the mural? Because I'm kind of thinking that she does. I'm kind of thinking that that's what kickstarts this journey
I
in the
think
first place.
I think it's a journey about. Well, it's of course her own journey, but I feel like what would kind of be interesting a lot, not in the like the sentimental way that us fans want to think about Star Wars,
Mhm.
but what if it's her? What if she has to go back to a world between worlds so she can catch up on a lot of everything what happened after her and Ezra met up and like what actually continued the story?
Yeah.
Like not necessarily like catching up, I guess, but like it's maybe like just more her reflecting on it, like reflecting on her life. And I'm not even saying that like it's going to be right at the center of the story, like that's what's going to kick off the show. I'm just saying like I feel like before we even see Ahsoka in Rebels, I feel like that's what it's going to be. Is somewhere in between that jump is what she's been doing this whole time, not whole time, but part of it.
I would agree with you. Um,
But it's gonna kind of be hard to nail that in there and be like this is a world between worlds unless we see, which we do see the mural in there, but
mhm.
it's gonna have to do a really good job at like explaining that time jump and like what's been going on.
Yeah, that's a question that I know we've asked in a previous podcast and kind of discussed is what is she doing from the time Ezra pulls her into the world between worlds? She goes back to the Sith Temple on Malachor, or to Malachor. At that time, the Sith Temple's gone because it's
Mhm.
destroyed. What does she do after that? Because there's a lot of years there, and I don't think we're gonna get to the bottom of that on this podcast by any means. But it's like,
Yeah, I have just another question, not even
mhm.
for both of us. Do you think that Malachor is the only? It's not necessarily, I guess, the only entrance because you see Palpatine in there throwing the Force magic or whatever at them. But do you think, other than Palpatine and Malachor, do you think that there's other places that they'll visit and there will be like another Sith temple or something of that nature for a World Between Worlds to happen?
Yeah. I think that
Or is it just Malachor, you think?
I don't know the lore behind this, but so Ezra enters the world between worlds from a Jedi temple,
Yes.
and then you have the Sith temple on Malachor, where Ahsoka, like where she's brought out of that. So I don't know if it has to do with necessarily the Jedi and Sith temples. I honestly, I don't know. I think that's the thing too, right? Like, how does she access the world between worlds again? Like, where
Well,
does she go?
how does the World Between Worlds work? Is it like time? That's the big question that everyone
No, nah, David said it's not time travel. It's not time
throwing
travel.
out there, but like Dave's gonna have to. If we're going back to a World Between Worlds, he kind of needs not confine it because, like he says, it's like a point where all Star Wars exists.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it needs to be defined a little bit more because it's like I feel like it's weird for her to just go back there. That was another thing we were kind of talking about. Is a world between worlds? Then this was when we were kind of watching the show. Do you think a world between worlds is like a one-time thing? And apparently, the leaks not. It's not. But like, I feel like with this, it's like Dave kind of needs to confine it. Once again, not confine it, but like explain it more so that we can have an understanding of how the world between worlds kind of more or less works. I guess.
Well, it needs to be used sparingly, right? Because it's this pretty controversial. Like, there's only so many things that you can do with the world between worlds, in my opinion. Like, I'm not a storyteller, but
Hmm.
from what we know of it so far, it's like you can go into this world and you can see different points of your life and different points of time, probably pivotal moments in time. Or as Ezra did, you can kind of not necessarily alter time, but you can make a significant impact on the linear direction of time. And I
Yeah.
feel like you can't do that very often. Otherwise, you start to really mess things up. Like, you can't obviously change things that we've already seen in our timeline.
Retcon the sequels.
You could. I mean, go. I mean, I like I said, you could do whatever. Like, Dave can do whatever he wants. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, to me, there's only two things you could do: is you can only look or you can alter. And I think
Yeah.
you have to stay away from altering. So it's like at that point, we're
Yeah.
just left with
As
looking.
far as possible. Yeah.
But one thing that I was confused on in the articles, it's talking about how the world between worlds will be this used as this kind of way to show Ahsoka different pivotal times in her life and how it ultimately leads up to like a decision for
He's on
her
now. Yeah.
her path. But what was weird to me about that was they're acting like the world between worlds is going to be the way that she interacts with Anakin on Mustafar, but that's not my impression of how the world between worlds works. Is the world between worlds is moments at time, which is why in a video that I released a few days ago last week, to me it makes more sense for her to go to a Jedi temple and have a Force vision, because we know that Ezra has done that. We know that Kanan has done that. Ahsoka herself has had a Force vision in a Jedi temple. And so that makes more sense to me, where she could have interact with characters in the past and kind of see different variations of how her choices have led up to her events, rather than the world between worlds, because the between worlds to me is just different moments in time that are already concrete,
Yeah.
and they are what they are. What are your thoughts on that? I guess what I'm asking is, do you think these leaks are true? Like, I think my thing is there will be a variation of this, but I don't know if the world between worlds is going to be the only thing that.
So I think I see what you're trying to correct about the leaks. Maybe is you.
I don't know anything. I'm just
Well, no, no,
speculating.
no, I know, but I'm just saying, just from the leaks and what we know from the leaks, I think you're saying everything could be true in that, but the thing that you would be changing is not necessarily going into a world between worlds. It's just more or less being a vision rather than a world between worlds,
Yeah,
and us seeing that through Ahsoka's eyes.
yeah. Going to a Jedi temple, having a Force vision, because again, she's already done that in Rebels, and so has Ezra and Kanan. And then I'm not even saying she can't go to the world between worlds. I think we'll see the world between worlds, but perhaps this vision is what prompts her to maybe go to the world between worlds and
Yeah,
actually have that kind of like where she tells Ezra like you can't change time.
yeah.
But what if she kind of is like, I want to though. Like I want to go back and save
Like
Anakin.
I want to reach out and save Anakin, and
So maybe that's what prompts her to go to the world between worlds. And then she realizes like she can't save Anakin, but she can save Ezra, and that
I
prompts
mean
her journey to
that's
find
the.
Ezra.
I mean, it wouldn't be a bad rehash to be in her emotional moment of like these visions or whatever state she's in. She's not thinking clearly like Ezra wasn't thinking, and she just has to think back to the Ezra moment where they're both standing in a world between worlds and realizes what she just told Ezra. Like, I can't save my master, and you can't save yours.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, I need to learn to let go. Essentially,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she might have to tell herself that again, or at least that's why she just. I think that's why she said it in the first place. Is like she's letting Ezra know, but she's kind of telling it for herself. She might have
Mm-hmm.
to tell herself that again.
Yeah.
Just be like, she is gone. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing I can do.
Yeah. And I yeah. Yeah. And I think that kind of leads me to the last point I'll make here is I think that this going to the world between worlds is actually going to occur before we even see her in the Mandalorian season 2. Like I think all of these things are going to kind of line up, and then that's when she's going to set out on her journey, and she's going to really discover who she is and like become Ahsoka the White and like really set on that journey, and we'll see where her character goes from there.
Oh,
Um,
Well, I guess she already. Okay.
Speculate away.
So you think that so the Ahsoka we see in season 2, this is going to be the Ahsoka before it?
Yes, I think she goes to. I personally believe she. Well, I don't know. They're so weird. The timeline's so weird because you have her in Mandalorian season 2, and then you have her Book of Boba Fett like she's leaving Luke Skywalker, knowing she's going somewhere. But I feel like that Ahsoka in Book of Boba Fett speaking to Luke is like she knows who she is. She's very well grounded in the fact that like she's like so much like your father. Like she's come to terms with that. Whereas I feel like one of the only things that could prompt her going into the world between worlds is wanting to go save Anakin and really know for herself what happened to him.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but
and it sounds like she knows Thrawn or knows where Thrawn is. Or it seems very confident. Like, Luke says, "Will this be the last time I see you?" And she's like, "Perhaps." Like she knows where she probably is going.
Yeah.
So
that's a whole nother thing. But I think Thrawn is going back and forth between the New Beyond and is coming to the galaxy, kind of making his recruiting and then going. Let's go to our next topic though, which is the Bad Batch. Okay. So by the time that this video releases, we will have already had our top 5 predictions for possible cameos in the Bad Batch. So I'm not going to spoil those right now. If you want to watch that video, I'll put the little card at the top of the screen here. But let's talk about just overall predictions, not necessarily cameos. Okay. What are your predictions for the Bad Batch? I am thinking that this, in terms of scope, is going to be pretty big, honestly. I think that we're going to learn a lot more about the Empire's plans in terms of cloning. And one of the major things, or I should say themes, after going back and watching the season 2 trailer is Sid. I think her name is Sid, right?
The green lady?
The green, I think it's Sid. Sid is like, if you do this could, like, this mission, like, you could be free forever. Like, they're going on this.
I feel like that's from, maybe I'm wrong, but for fans don't know, we just we picked out our episodes to watch Bad Batch, or we watched pretty much all of Bad Batch, and I may be wrong, but didn't she say something like that in the first season? Like, this could set you free. So aren't they taking that audio from season 1? I feel like.
They might be. I can't remember. But I think either way, it's like the scope is going to be pretty big. And I mean, you got to think that, like, they're not going to want to just serve Sid forever. They can't just keep going on these small missions. They're like, one of their probably top priorities at this point is protecting Omega.
Well, yeah.
And so they can't be like,
they got to get what they get and
leave and then just move on with their lives in some way, shape, or form. But I also think that they're going to attract significant attention from the Empire. And I think that not only are they going to be chasing down Omega, like, I think that they're going to continue to kind of cause havoc and be a thorn in the side of the Empire and Palpatine. And they're going to be chased down potentially by, maybe we could see the formation of the Inquisitors.
Perhaps.
My
prediction,
some Inquisitors.
Yeah. That'd be amazing. My predictions. Yeah, my predictions are that it's going. I mean, there wasn't really much in the trailer to go off of, like, what is this show necessarily going to be about, other than, like you said, like, they're going to try and protect Omega. They're going to. They're trying to find Rex again. So that's Rex calls them. So we're seeing Rex again. That's fun. I always love seeing Rex. Hopefully we get more episodes with him and the Bad Batch together. That's the thing that I hope happens. And
so I'm thinking of a theory right now, if I can barge in really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
As you're talking here, I'm wondering, because it's mentioned, I believe, in the first season that Sid is an informant for the Jedi. Like she has connections with the Jedi.
Oh.
And I'm wondering because we see is it Gungi or Gunji? I think it's Gunji, the Wookiee,
Bungie.
the Padawan Wookiee. Yeah. So we see Gunji in season 2, right? I'm wondering if the big mission she's talking about is rescuing Gunji,
Oh, yeah.
and perhaps maybe the Bad Batch are going to start being this like kind of special forces team, which they are. They're Clone Force 99. But it's like, what if they're but it's like, what if they are like their primary objective at this point is rescuing Jedi and leading them to safety?
That'd be pretty cool. Trying to get the order
Hmm.
somewhat formulated again, and maybe that would be interesting.
Or
Even,
flip Order 66. Like
yeah,
try to flip Order 66.
at least
Hmm.
try and get an army on their side that can counter.
Because there's an episode in the series that it's one of the last episodes called Plan 99. And that's like kind of a cool like way to flip the 66. Even though they are Clone Force 99, like I could get where that could come from it too. But if you flip Order 66 and make it Plan 99 to flip the order on its head and have them support the Jedi and kind of go against the Empire instead of executing Order 66. Just
Yeah.
a thought, just a prediction.
Well, and there is also the thought that, I mean, Rex has been out there for a while and he's been fighting, but there's not a theory, but it's more or less like speculation, or I think even confirmation at this point of like a Star Wars children's book that Rex was at the Battle
Of Endor. Hmm.
Endor. So it'd be kind of cool to know that other clones were still fighting along with Rex at that point.
Yeah, I just don't know. You would expect to see them in Rebels, though, you know? I mean, I know that they can explain the story and however they want, but
Yeah,
I feel like they die.
probably they died, but it would be cool to know that they
Yeah.
survived and were fighting the Empire at that point, even though George and Dave didn't really think of this at the time, but there's a
Yeah.
possibility.
But what an interesting use of the characters, you know, to potentially have them become this special group of clones that want to try to rescue the Jedi. Because really, the Jedi, in a sense, like, even though the Jedi created their own demise with how political they got,
I mean,
really,
they're very loyal.
they're loyal and they're really like the last hope. Like, they are the hope of the galaxy. And, like, we know where the story ends up, obviously, right? Like, Luke redeeming Vader, Vader kills Palpatine, or Anakin kills Palpatine. So we know where the story ends up. But you would imagine from a like Hunter, like even watching Bad Batch season 1 again, like Hunter was very loyal to the Jedi. That's why like obviously the order didn't work for him, but he was very loyal to like Caleb and like didn't want to kill Caleb. Like he's loyal to the Jedi. So you'd imagine as a clone or even a person in the galaxy at that time who hasn't fallen to the manipulation and propaganda of Palpatine, that you would want the Jedi to come back because the Jedi would be the only hope to defeat the Empire, I feel like. And so what a cool story to like have them want to go rescue as many Jedi as they could.
I hope that's the case. Yeah.
And then maybe this Plan 99 being a reversal of Order 66, and maybe that happens, and that's why the clones like phase out even more quickly.
I mean,
Um,
isn't there I think another YouTuber was talking about this,
mhm.
but or maybe I've heard it somewhere. I don't know. A YouTuber, I don't know. But wasn't there like in comic books for the Clone Wars, or like they revolt in Camino or something like that? Like
Yes, yeah. I
there's
think
like a clone revolt.
it could have been, yeah, it could have been a comic actually. Yeah,
So
we could
that's
see that
that's probably what we're seeing in this season. At least I think that's my prediction, is we're going to see
at the end of the season.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good. I think that's a pretty solid theory. Um, yeah, that's a pretty solid theory. But all right, let's leave it at that. Let's go to the last point here. We're getting close to our time. Um, very quickly, because there's not a lot to talk about here, I feel like at the end. But Kathleen Kennedy, um, has been rumored to receive some type of severance package, a large amount of money. I don't know exactly how much, but she has a severance package, and she's rumored to probably be leaving Lucasfilm after Indiana Jones 5, probably just because if the movie does receive the kind of praise that we're kind of expecting it to, it would be kind of a send-off, right-off into the sunset, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Let's quickly, what are your thoughts on that?
If this is true that she has finally, we heard that she was probably leaving at this point, and this report comes out that she's got a severance package. If it is all true that she is leaving, I'm kind of glad to see her go at this point. I'm like, at this point, don't let the door hit you on the way out. It was good having you, but not really. Like, you really know what you were doing with Star Wars, so kind of bye. No, but in all serious, like, she is a great producer. She has a lot of great things for movies in general. Like, she made some incredible stuff. She produced some incredible stuff. But once again, for Star Wars, she didn't live up to the expectation that everyone thought that she could.
Yeah.
And
you know, I'll piggyback off of that, because in all, like you said, in all seriousness, like let's approach this from a certain point of view, to put it in Star Wars terms, okay? From a certain point of view, from a literal point of view, she is the leader of Lucasfilm. A leader leads, a leader vision casts, a leader, yes, is responsible for their company, for their organization, but arguably, in my opinion, in a position like hers, she's ultimately also responsible for vision casting for the fans, because that's what a leader does. They vision cast. Did she vision cast in a way that united the fan base? No, that's pretty obvious. Like that's almost empirical. It's not even my opinion. Like, it's obvious. I think everyone agrees that the Star Wars fandom is a little bit toxic.
Toxic, yes.
So
both positivity and negativity.
Yes,
just that out.
And that is what it is. But the reality is it's the old, like, there is no leader of the fans. Some people might like to pretend like there is, but there is no technically leader of the fans. The only leader we can point to is the leader of the one who leads the direction of Star Wars, who's responsible for the direction of Star Wars. And again, basically empirically, I can almost say that she did not deliver on she did not deliver as a leader. My concern is that it's kind of like in politics, like, as when I studied it a little bit, it's like everyone always wants term limits, right? But it's like you don't, if you don't have term limits, then you have all these people in there that don't know what they're doing. So what's better? Someone who's been there and is like a swamp rat and who's been there for years and years and years, but kind of knows the ins and outs of everything, even though they may not be good, or the person who's brand new and has no idea what they're doing and has to learn it all. It's like, what's better is my question. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
And we don't have the answer. But the reality is that it sounds like Kathy's gone. We're going to be getting someone new, and I don't think it's John or Dave. And there's
for me,
they'll still be there, they'll still be there.
Just my one thing for the person coming in is follow Dave. Like I said before, I think we talked about this.
Not even like, I know what you're saying, like, follow Dave, but just work with Dave. Let Dave be your guiding light.
Yes.
It's like you are there there to execute as a leader. Like, you get Dave what he needs to produce good content. You are there to drive the business.
Executed Order 66. You
execute
need to execute Dave Filoni's plan, but the person that comes in needs to like you said, follow Dave's plan. Dave is kind of your guiding light here in terms of fan love and everything. And the one thing that you could absolutely do is follow his plan, because right now there seems like there is no plan other than Dave's plan, and it's be working. So
here's my, and again, this will be my last point here. This is my fear. Okay. Again, in typical Star Wars lingo and fashion.
Yep.
It's like you have Chancellor Valorum in episode 1, Phantom Menace. Okay. It's like, my fear is Kathy's Chancellor Valorum, and it's like I raise a vote of no confidence, and like everybody votes him out, and then it's like you got Palpatine. Like, guess who comes in their position? Palpatine. Like, that's my one worry. Is like, okay, we're voting. We have a vote of no confidence in Kathleen Kennedy, but the person coming in could be Palpatine. Like, let's learn from Star Wars here. Like, we got to be really sure. Like, does this person really incapable of leading Lucasfilm? I believe yes.
I believe,
but could the
yes.
person
The
next
board
be
members,
worse?
The board members seem yes.
Well, like, there's a vote of no confidence, but again, it's like, but the next person though, who's the next person? That is the question, and I think with that we leave it there. So we thank you all for watching. As you can see on our backgrounds, we've upgraded the background just a little bit to the Galactic Senate Chamber. This is Star Wars Politics. You're listening to Star Wars Politics, and that makes you all senators. So, senators, thank you for being a part of our channel. We're looking forward to growing our community. And we will see you next time on another episode of Star Wars Politics. Remember, these are the fans you're looking for.